This is Jordan Poyer, safety for the Buffalo Bills, and you are now listening to Cover One Buffalo Podcast. Let's go.
Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo Podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my partner in crime, Aaron Quinn. Aaron, what are you doing?
Oh, sorry, I was just sweeping. Sweeping up the Patriots.
Tonight, the Buffalo Bills have swept the New England Patriots and on their way to, I'm going to say, a sweep of the division, because regardless of what happens next week, it looks like we're going to be just hanging out, having a good old time. The Buffalo Bills dominated the New England Patriots 38-9 tonight in just a Monday night massacre. Tonight's show is brought to you by Uncle Jumbo's, and we're going to try some things out. I'm going to celebrate with some new Uncle Jumbo's orange cream soda. Looks delightful and delicious.
I'm happy you are, because it's way too late for me. I love Uncle Jumbo's. I love you guys. My kid's going to be up super early in the morning, and
yeah, that's good.
He doesn't care how much Uncle Jumbo's I've had or not.
Yeah, no, that's delightful. That's really good.
I can almost taste it from your
Yeah, it tastes almost as good as that victory. Not quite. Almost as good as that victory. So a couple fun facts for tonight. This was the second worst defeat in Bill Belichick's Patriots career.
Hate to see it.
The worst defeat is also from the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen was virtually flawless. We'll get to that in a moment here. They have now dominated, and as I was hoping for, just rip the division crown from their cold, dead hands. And just unbelievable. First, a big, huge thank you to Elijah. Very, very generous of you, and just a great feeling for tonight. So shoot us all your comments, questions. We're going to have a good time tonight talking about this. And Aaron, just before we dive into the details and all the minutia, what are your thoughts on having a team that has now gone 4 straight national television primary audience windows, 4 straight double-digit wins, their 5th straight double-digit win overall, and back-to-back dominant victories, 29 points over the Broncos on the road, another 29 points on the road in New England? How does that feel?
If I really told you, would probably have to put some parental advisory warnings on this podcast. No, it feels great. This win specifically for me, I tweeted it out earlier, and I talk about it all the time. Growing up in New England, every single person that I care about in my life is a Patriots fan, and to be able to hand them the kind of loss that they've handed us so many times throughout the 20 years on their way to the playoffs, on their way to another AFC East championship, just felt right to finally be on the other end of that late season, just dominant in every facet of the game performance. It's, sitting through those losses for so many years, I just always wondered what that would feel like to see the other owner's box shot at the end of the game and see, Robert Kraft not clapping, but sitting there sulking, and see the Patriots quarterback sulking. Like, those were all the things I always wanted to see.
Or Belichick being the one slamming the phone down.
Phones, yes. And it was everything I'd ever hoped for and more. It was beautiful. But to the recent run, we talked a lot about on this podcast, how is this team going to respond to the Hail Mary and to that Hail Mary loss? And they've come out and responded light years ahead of what I thought we would see as the response. And Eric has talked about it a lot in our private conversations about this new sort of uber aggressive team, and McDermott just really putting it to teams and not letting up at all. I mean, we talk a lot about how this is a one-possession league. Games are decided by one possession. You even look at the Jets last couple of games here. You look around the league, some of these teams that don't belong in games are keeping it close, are winning games. And the Bills are not allowing teams to do this. Granted, they haven't beat in this last 2 weeks. They haven't beat great teams, but they've beat teams that they should by the margins that they should. And that's something that not a lot of teams are doing in the NFL right now.
You want to know what's fun? They did that tonight because the Patriots are a bad team.
Yeah, they're super bad.
So let's dive into how and why this happened. So obviously everybody heard the comments from Bill Belichick early on, and that he really pushed back with the Monday Night Crew about how Josh Allen, he didn't see that MVP caliber performance because of what they did to him in the first matchup. Well, I think he noticed this one. Josh Allen, 27 of 36 for 75% completion percentage, 320 yards, 8.9 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, a 138.7 quarterback rating, another 35 yards rushing, and he took off most of the fourth quarter. And being able to just completely annihilate a defense like that, who had actually been okay for chunks of this season, it was just poetic to have him still being bitter and not willing to acknowledge how well Josh was playing, and to have him just absolutely rip them apart. They didn't have to run the ball. They were able to play their style of offense, and they put up a dominant 38 points pretty purely behind Josh Allen. It was just unbelievable.
Yes, thank you, Slander. I don't know much of that name. Thank you very much appreciated. Yeah.
Xylicider?
Xylicider. Yeah, I'll work with that. Josh was dealing today, and I know everybody, after Aaron Rodgers' performance in the snow, everyone was ready to just say, "Hey, we're going to hand it to him. He's the clear MVP," and I think he'll probably still win it, but as we talk this week, Josh will get votes, and Josh will probably get a couple more votes than maybe we thought after this performance. He outperformed Aaron Rodgers this week in particular. I know, opponents aren't the same, but what Aaron Rodgers has done is really also super special.
Yes.
It just happens to be 3 guys having really special seasons. I think almost any other year, Josh Allen is put up the type of season where he could be the runaway candidate for MVP. He's one of the greatest to ever be a quarterback in the world, is also having a really good season. So it's a tough spot for him, but him just getting votes, I think, is super encouraging to Bills fans for the next 10 years. Like, it's usually guys that are going to be even in this consideration for MVP are not flash in the pan hype one season guy. Like, there's a model for some sustained success that we can have multiple seasons like this from Josh Allen, as long as we keep Stephon Diggs. I think that's clearly the biggest, one of the biggest parts of what we're seeing.
Huge addition. And obviously, Susie here talking about the, so nice to have someone else start over again, and having all that talk of all the Patriots, what they needed to do to restart. And there's a lot of talk in the chat here about Josh Allen having 4 Player of the Week awards to Aaron Rodgers 1. And Tori's right. I think it might be 5 after this week. I'll have to go back and look. But I think there's a pretty good chance Josh Allen gets his 5th AFC Player of the Week award here. And on the season numbers, it's really hard to argue that Aaron Rodgers hasn't put up better numbers. You can't convince me anyone in the NFL is playing better than Josh Allen right now, or better than Josh Allen over the second half of the season. And to be able to have that kind of confidence going into the playoffs, where we haven't even gotten John Brown back yet, but just being able to have that kind of confidence going into the playoffs is unbelievable. It's just a fantastic feeling.
Yeah, and I don't need MVP. There's not a long history of MVPs who went on to win the Super Bowl the year they win the MVP.
There's actually quite a bit of the opposite.
Yeah, so it's not something I need. It would be cool for Josh, and cool bragging rights, and cool to dunk on people on Twitter. That's all cool. I think there's a good chance he might get one in his career. So that looks like he's on that type of trajectory to if he continues this type of play. I don't need it this year. I'm much more concerned with how does this team line up this special thing they've captured here in the second half of the season and take this into the playoffs. And dude, we've talked about it ad nauseum on this podcast of the most important part of the season was lining up through December.
Yes.
This entire team, not just Josh Allen, everybody, all phases of this game, lining up your best football now and taking that momentum in a winning streak into the playoffs. And they've done it better than I imagined when we were sitting here talking about it. I mean, you look, and we'll get through all the phases of the game, but everybody's playing with such they're all playing with the same type of swag and confidence that Josh Allen's out there slinging with.
Appreciate you. You guys are very, very generous tonight. Really, really appreciate that. And it's just incredible to be able to see that kind of play, that kind of momentum, and what it's going to allow. For the run game tonight, it was solid. 31 carries for 130 yards, over 4 yards a carry. They were able to, again, milk the clock as it went down. They kept the ball for the final 5 minutes and 44 seconds of the game. So another time where they just completely took the air out of the game. Not quite to the degree of what it was in Pittsburgh, where they were still probably in a more competitive game in that Steelers game, where they was still within 2 scores and they thought they would have a chance to get the ball back, and they were really trying to call timeouts and everything. Here the Patriots had given up. They were just hoping to get off the field and be done with it. So it's pretty unbelievable to be able to see it that direction. But they were solid. Allen had some nice runs. McKenzie had the nice third down conversion earlier on the jet sweep. Zach Moss had some hard carries later on, but the run game is not going to be what carries us here, but it was enough to be able to get it to where we needed. Moving to the receiving, Stephon Diggs, 9 carries for 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 carries on 11 targets. He's now number 1 in the NFL in catches, number 1 in the NFL in targets, number 1 in the NFL in receiving yards. Depending on who sits or plays in the final week of the year, it's going to take like a 10-catch, 100-yard game from DeAndre Hopkins, potentially with a backup quarterback, depending on how Kyler Murray is doing. But Stephon Diggs is assuredly going to lead the AFC in every stat and be top 2 in anything. So just unbelievable. I know the rest of the receiving core was average. It wasn't a huge Cole Beasley night, and he was healthy through 3 quarters of the game. Obviously, that's the biggest takeaway from this game tonight is watching Cole Beasley. He walked off the field. They did a structural exam on the bench, so it clearly wasn't a major knee injury, but Eric pointed out you saw coaches tapping to the outside of the knee, so it obviously looks like my very uneducated guess is an MCL sprain with him walking off the field and them doing the structural exam there. So that's something that hopefully 2 weeks of rest here going into the playoffs is feasible. But overall, it was a very diversified receiving game. We ended up with 10 different guys catching passes, but the receivers look great to me, obviously led by Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, Diggs is incredible. Every time he makes a play, I just look at my wife and I'm like, he's so freaking good. He's just so
just so smooth.
Yeah, he's such a smooth athlete. He can do it all. He can take the top off of defense. He twice now this year he's just bounced off of multiple defenders and just graced into the end zone. It's unbelievable. It's the Molds is probably the only other great skill position player that I've really seen in my adult life that is a game-changing type guy. We just haven't had it. I love Stevie Johnson. I love what he was able to do. He was fun on mediocre teams. Stephon Diggs is elite. He is an elite athlete, the best at what he does.
What's Belichick's number 1 strategy you always hear about?
Yeah, take away your number 1 weapon. Obviously, it's super hard without Stephon Diggs out there. I'll give them that.
Sure, without Gilmore. Without
Stephon Gilmore out there, I'll give them that. And they're banged up defensively, so this is a bad team, and we caught them at the right time with all the injuries. But he still does scheme up ways to take away weapons from you. I don't think there's a team in the league right now that can scheme something to stop Stephon Diggs. It's going to be on Allen continuing to be able to get him the ball, which he looks super comfortable being able to do it again here for 6 straight weeks of just, putting up massive points. I'm not a big fantasy guy, and my team's not good enough to be in any type of finals or anything like that, but I'm sure Stephon Diggs caught up a lot of teams.
He won a lot of people an awful lot of money tonight.
And imagine waking up against Stephon Diggs, being up 30-something points, thinking that you're going to win your league, and Stephon Diggs comes out and does what he does here tonight. It's just incredible to have a player like that on the Bills, because we've seen other teams have those guys for years, and the Bills just not have those guys. And I'd like to flip it over to the tight ends, a guy that took a lot of shit right at the beginning of the game, that dropped touchdown. And I'm with you. I'm with everybody that wants to crop on Knox for that. That was an easy catch. He should have had it.
He somehow only makes incredibly difficult catches.
He had a really nice game.
Yeah.
He had a very nice game. And this is the frustrating thing of being in the moment, being able to be on Twitter and vent your frustration immediately. Is this guy's super young. he flashes the ability. Every time we get mad at him, he comes back and he flashes the ability, which is what keeps him on the field. He is a threat that the defense has to account for, and he showed that today. And although he had that drop, I want to see Dawson Knox in this offense going forward, because he is a playmaker who has the ability to make some fantastic catches.
Well, you said it really well the other day that the execution is needed, but his athleticism is a necessary threat and stress on the defense. The fact that they have to worry about that is a weapon in itself. So we need him to come down with those catches. We need him to do a bit more beyond there, but him being on the field is a bigger threat than, although I did see Lee Smith running full speed down a sideline in the NFL in a real game. I saw that. It was his full speed. It was also probably my full speed. Like, it was super similar to my full speed.
Right.
But two catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. I saw it. Yeah. So moving up in the tight ends, this might have been the best offensive line game of the season. Josh Allen dropped back to pass. They showed it late in the game 36 times. He got touched once. They touched him once, let alone sacking him, which they had no sacks on the game. The offensive line allowed Josh Allen to get touched once. The part of that is strategy. Belichick obviously spent a great deal of time sending 3 and dropping 8, trying to frustrate Allen early, but he got frustrated later and started sending more pressure, and that's where you saw Josh hit some of those big plays where there's nobody else back there. So the fact that the offensive line kept him squeaky clean all day, even when they were trying to run some stunts or overloading one side when there were 3 coming, that was pretty incredible to be able to hold up. And then solid in the run game when you're still getting 4 yards a carry when they know you're going to run the ball. That's decent work as well. Something they should be very proud of.
I do think the no sack thing will be overstated this week a little bit because of what you mentioned, scheme. Sure. And it was working a little bit to start the game. You could see Josh looking downfield and wasn't finding what he was looking for when they were dropping guys back. Also, it's the talent on the other side of the ball, or lack of talent.
They still had McCourty, J.C. Jackson. They were still talented guys back there. It's not the same with Gilmore. But yes, pass rushers, you're only talking about Winovich.
They're leading sacks, 3.5 sacks. Yeah. They're not getting home on quarterbacks. And when you look at the gamut, and this is a great thing heading into the playoffs, another thing we've touched on a few times, having played TJ Watt, having played Bosa, having played some of the San Francisco 49ers with their front seven, and some really good front sevens over the last 2 months here, I think has made this offensive line better. And then when you go up against a team like the Patriots, that front seven without Lawrence Guy, without all these names that we've seen for years, I think it means that you go out and dominate that unit. And so they did what you expect against the inferior unit, and so I'm happy about it. But I think it will maybe be overstated in the fact that there's a lot of context in there that they should dominate that.
We're going to face better pass rushes in the playoffs. That's certainly going to be the case.
I think it also speaks to, when you talk about how Belichick's scheme, I think it speaks to people are trying to figure out what is the best way to slow down Josh Allen in this offense. Do you bring a lot of pressure because he's beat pressure this year? Do you play a lot of man? He's beat man. Like, where is this balance to sort of figure out what's the book on stopping Josh Allen in this offense right now? And if Bill Belichick can't figure it out, there's not going to probably be a ton of coaches left that they face that's going to have a good shot at figuring out one book on him. And I don't know what it's going to be to really slow this offense down, and that's a really cool feeling.
Oh, yeah. A couple more tidbits just here before we wrap up the offensive side of the ball. Another game with 31 first downs, which is ridiculous, and now the Bills have tied for the 2 highest first down games in the NFL this year. They're also the only team in the NFL to get 20-plus first downs in every single game this year. Some folks, you hear Aaron and I talk about Warren Sharp a lot, one of the smartest guys in football. He's really banged that drum about why the Bills' offensive success is so sustainable, in that they get first downs better than any other team. They're the number 1 third down team in the league. They're the number 1 fourth down team in the league. They get the most first downs. they continually keep their team on the field. So getting 31 first downs for 474 total yards against a Bill Belichick-led defense is an incredibly impressive performance. My grandma's even out here trash talking me. I got 38 points right for the Bills, but I was off. I gave the Patriots too much credit on how many points they were going to score. Right. So it's a fun one to get wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And on the first down thing, man, like I love toxic differential and track that, but they weren't like the way this game looks box score wise. You would think that the toxic differential would be like 9-3.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like the way it looked, but it wasn't. But there was series after series where they were picking up 10 yards a clip.
That one drive, they literally had 5 first downs in a row and then a touchdown on 6 consecutive plays. That's dominance.
It's incredible to see. So while how much I love toxic differential, there's something to be said for just being able to pick up 10 yards a clip and move the ball down the field like that. And then you don't need the toxic plays to come in if you're able to move the ball in that manner. So it shows up in those, 31 first downs that you're just moving the ball at will on an opponent. And what that does to a defense is just so defeating, to be out on the field and not be able to stop first downs play after play.
Yeah, switching over to the defensive side of the ball, the Bills held them to 11 first downs, 200 total yards, 9 points. It was you made some comments earlier. This is what you should do against a offense that, heck, they scored their first touchdown in like 8 quarters tonight as one of their only scores. Mm-hmm. The Bills ended up with 3 tackles, 5 quarterback hits, had a very controlling game to be, in this position. I thought Matt Milano had his best game since coming back. He was all over the field, looking explosive, seemed to have a lot of snaps tonight. I saw AJ Klein out there a little bit, but Milano had his highest snap count of what we've seen in a while. So I was certainly encouraged to see where that came from. You saw, even with a struggling team, the aggression that you talked about from McDermott, they were still sending blitzes late in that game. Even after Stidham came in, they weren't slowing down. They weren't taking their foot off the gas. They were still going after it. Dean Marlowe had that ridiculous, running start, untouched blindside sack. And then I saw them send Jordan Poyer on another sack later, or another blitz later. So it certainly was not for a lack of aggression. I don't think there's a ton of takeaways, similar to your offensive line comment that this is what you should do to a bad offense, but it was still reassuring to see them do it.
Yeah, and I think you hit on probably the most exciting part of seeing Matt Milano get back in his groove on this defense. I think we get caught up a little bit again in the moment when it comes to NFL teams and players and stuff like that. And I saw a lot of people, and I get where it's coming from, of saying, well, Matt Milano's easy to replace. We don't need to keep Matt Milano. Let's just keep Darrell Williams. And there is a massive difference in the aggression, in the ability to keep things contained, and some of the trickery stuff that teams try to do when Matt Milano's on the field. This defense is at another level when Matt Milano's on the field. And I know that the opponent isn't the best example here this evening, but you see it. You see it in how he plays, and having him with Tremaine Edmonds just makes that level of the defense totally another. We already know that cornerbacks and safeties are good. We know safeties play is going to be good. I think the defensive line has done a good job here growing throughout the year. We're seeing improvement there, but to see the middle linebackers get back together, or the linebacking group get back together here late in the season while we're making a playoff push, I think it's awesome. And I'm still on board with Matt Milano is still my top priority of re-signing here this offseason, because I do think he kicks this defense into another level. The guy just plays so fast, and he doesn't just play fast and reckless anymore like he used to when he was younger. He missed a couple of run fits today, and again, stats are misleading. They were talking a lot about the Patriots already have over 100 yards in the first half. It was 3 big runs. They broke off 3 big runs on the Bills, and that was really bad for the team.
Sure. It wasn't. That's not good.
Yeah, and you don't want to see that. You want to see that get cleaned up. I don't know, man. I took away most is Milano being back on the field, looking like he's ramping up in just the right amount of time. It looks like after handling that injury maybe poorly early in the season, they've handled it really well here going forward and ramping him back up for playoffs.
And I think that it really leads into a third phase we don't talk all the time about. It was great to see the coaching tonight and to see that the Bills won the coaching battle against a Bill Belichick-led team. Belichick was the one wasting challenge on a terrible call. Yeah, it's obviously everybody's going to see the gif and the meme of him slamming down the phone and everything. That's because he got bad information, but he wasted a challenge on the first play of the second half that was, pretty obviously a catch, and he had to kind of stumble to waste time at the end of the first half because he knew his offense couldn't score points. And consistently he had one of the for anyone who doesn't follow it, there's a cowardly punt index on Twitter that does an analysis of depending on what the score is and what the situation is. He was down 31-9, down 22 points on 4th and 4 in Bills territory. One of the few drives, one of the 2 drives that got into Bills territory all night. And you punt down 22 points in Bills territory? That is shamefully giving up. Like, you don't even try to go for it there when you're down like that. I get, just trying to keep yourself in position and thinking that at that point he's literally saying, I'd rather not make this more of an embarrassing blowout. I'd rather try to control the score and make them have to drive the field, which FYI they did. They drove 95 yards and drove down the field for a 95-yard touchdown. It was shocking to see a Patriots team have to give up against a Buffalo team. We've never seen it in our adult life.
Yeah, and again, I'm trying to sort of pump my own brakes on this one a little bit too, because this is a neutered roster on both sides of the ball. And you even saw it on, I think it was like a 3rd and 4 or something, maybe 3rd and 5, and they ran an option play and Addison snuffed it out and it didn't go anywhere. And everyone in my house was like, why would they do that? Because they don't trust anyone to throw the ball for 4 yards on a 3rd and 4. Like, this team has no. They tried
that double pass early on that should have been a touchdown, honestly.
Yeah, no, and it was not executed. I don't feel bad for Belichick because he's had so much success, but you can tell the level of frustration when you watch his press conferences all week, and he's not a happy person. So him having the cowardly punt, I think it just speaks more volumes of where he is with this team, where he is with this 2020. Nothing has gone their way, and it's fantastic. It's great to watch.
It's outstanding.
Yeah, but nothing has gone their way. Injuries, COVID stuff, just fumbles at the end of the game against the Bills, the fumble coming out. Like, there has not been a set of circumstances that have gone their way, and karma is a bitch, and it just catches up with you all at once sometimes.
Anthony is spot on here. For anyone who doesn't check it out, Anthony is a fantastic part of our team on Tuesday nights and Fridays for the Hoof.
He's cute,
the Bills did win the special teams battle tonight. They had the great audible call, and somebody brought it up here. That was the same way that the Patriots blocked that punt against us in the game last year, where the Bills didn't bring the gunner in and they had the extra free blocker. Well, this time they audible to it. Jaquan Johnson, left-handed passer, takes the snap, throws it to a wide open Siran Neal. Siran Neal then comes back later on, tackles a kick returner on the 9-yard line. Do you know how hard it is to tackle a kick return inside the 10-yard line? That's ridiculous. Corey Bojorquez out-punted their Pro Bowl punter. Bojorquez had 2 punts for 56.5 yards average, both of them inside the 20, one of them down at the 5, one of the first times he's had one downed, that far down. A bunch of nice returns. The only kick return of the night was a 49-yarder by Andre Roberts. So it was nice, a rare special teams win against a Belichick-led team. Even when they are having a scrappy, rough season, they're usually still pretty exceptional on special teams. So a 3-phase win in a dominant win overall is really, really impressive.
Yeah, special teams has been real nice, actually, for a stretch here. I think it's a good unit, and Tyler Bass, again, just hitting his extra points, been real consistent since his kind of early rookie struggles, whatever was going on early in the year. I think he's gaining the confidence of Bills Mafia and the fan base.
Has he missed since that 61-yarder?
No, I don't think so. And so
he had that one that people argued, the extra point that went over the top that technically looked like it might have been good, but they said it was bad.
Yeah, but he's not a problem, right?
Yeah, and most of them are dead center.
Yeah, and we feel a lot better if it comes down to the situation that they had in the Texans game a year ago, where you have a 50-plus yarder that we have a good young big leg kicker that can do something in a close, tight playoff game. So again, you're right. It's not a unit that gets the love that it should, but they've been playing a lot more consistent. And even Borges, man, people aren't always sold on Borges, and he's had a really nice season here.
Honestly, he has one bad punt on the entire year.
Yeah, doing a really good job. And these things are going to matter in the playoffs. As good as this offense looks right now, the playoffs change. It's a different game. There's going to be other good offenses that they're playing. Games are going to get tighter than we've seen over here the last couple of weeks. Big punts are going to matter. 50-yard kicks are going to matter. All this stuff is going to make all the difference of having consistent special teams and all three and consistency in all three.
Great return coverage or a great return. Those are like 20-yard flips. Getting a guy at the 10 instead of the 30-ish. Absolutely. Or Roberts taking it back to the 50 instead of the 30-ish.
Return. That's a toxic play, man.
Those are huge. And those extra 20 yards make a huge, huge difference. And
absolutely.
Jeff making a great point here, and a lot of other guys in the chat have been talking about it, that it was a really fun night for Bills Mafia tonight. It was a really fun night for Bills fans to be able to experience. Steve Levy was really even-handed and talked early on in his pregame prep that, hey, I don't think national fans realize how good this Bills team is. Everybody sees it as, oh, those plucky Bills guys, that's, oh, good for them, that's fun. No. They're really, really good. And it was great to see someone that I respect like him, who I know does his homework, say something like that. And then during the broadcast, to have Louis Riddick just, shower praise on Brandon Beane and how they built this roster, and have them just point out every fantastic throw that Josh Allen was making, and then to talk about the struggles in New England. It was just, I feel great for Bills fans that they were able to enjoy this game as much as I know they were able to on a national stage where we've seen so many things. And I posted earlier in the day, everything in me of the past 25 years has told me this is a bad game. This is bad. Everyone's talking about how great the Bills were. We just put up a billboard 4 minutes from their stadium. You were giving all this ammo to Bill Belichick, who was an underdog at home. 87% of money bet on this game in Vegas was on the Buffalo Bills. Everything was telling me this was bad and was going to be a trap game, and that we're going to do it on national TV and we're going to lose to an embarrassing New England team. And I kept telling myself, I'm like, no, I've watched the film. I've watched this team. I see who's out for New England. The Bills are better. They can't guard us. And then to see them come out and go 38-9 with Josh Allen's maybe most impressive game when you consider it against Bill Belichick, it was just awesome. And I'm so happy that everybody got to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I am really convinced there's no such thing as a trap game in a Sean McDermott team at this point.
He doesn't lose to bad teams.
No, and there might be close games to bad teams, and they lost to the Cardinals, who I'm not convinced is a good team, but that was fluky, right? Like, that was a fluky play. They had that game won, so I don't know. I think Sean McDermott's always going to have his guys prepared. I think people thought something was kind of off with this team early in the year. If you were on that boat, I think it's been totally dispelled. Like, this team, I've never seen a team tighter than this unit is right now. I think they
all celebrating for each other.
And they're all bought in to the product. This is a unit that's all bought into the same messaging, the same idea, the same goal, and that's a powerful thing. Those are the type of things it takes to not get caught up in the trap. That you have to go in and handle business week to week. Whenever you're out on the field, there's a mission, and everybody's focused on that one mission. That's the results that we're seeing of these games is exactly that. Everybody's focused on this one mission, on the process. They won that division championship. Keep going. We're not done. This isn't done yet. And you saw that play out here today. This was a statement. And I think Sean McDermott worked that into his messaging all week long. Like, look, we barely beat the Patriots the last time. I'm sure he told them that all the time. Yeah. We need to go out there and really beat and take it from them and do it in their home on national TV and establish ourselves as the real, we won the championship a week ago, but let's establish ourselves as the real champion of the AFC East by taking it from the guys that were for the last 20 years. and everyone's on the same page with McDermott. It's all bought in, and that's special. And that there's not going to be any more trap games because all the teams after here, I think we're going to probably rest the starters this next week. Yeah. After that, it's all good teams. We're playing, there's no trap games left. So,
yeah. I love this point from Taylor. So 5 straight double-digit wins, 89-plus in the last 5 games, 79-plus point differential in the last 4 games, back-to-back 29-point wins. Clicking at the right time matters a ton. I know I saw a couple guys talking about, I think it was I'm Wolf, was talking about the strategy for next week. We'll end the show on that as we get into it here, I don't know exactly what we're going to see here. I think obviously some of them are easy. Things like Jordan Poyer, Cole Beasley, you're obviously anyone with any remote ding is going to sit. I think you're kidding yourself if you don't think they want that passing record for Josh Allen. So Josh Allen's going to start. He's going to play maybe exactly until he breaks the team's passing yardage record. I don't know that he's going to play the whole game, but it's going to be interesting to see how Sean McDermott handles this. I think that there's strategy in... I want the 2 seed. I think it could matter depending on who they're going to play in the first round. I think it could matter in making sure you can host that second game. I think it can matter on making sure that you get one of the better remaining seeds going into that next game. And I think it's going to be an interesting balance because that'll all backfire if you see the wrong guy get dinged up or something happens. Right. So it's going to be really interesting how McDermott handles this in wanting to keep them hot, wanting to keep them fresh, wanting to keep the momentum rolling, but also guarding and taking advantage of some rest and some, pseudo bye week stuff going in here. How would you handle it?
I wouldn't play anybody that's important to a playoff run personally, especially in 2020. I feel like I get the idea of trying to get that second seed and get that extra home playoff game and maybe lining up opposite of the Kansas City Chiefs, stuff like that, trying to avoid the Chiefs until the last minute. I feel pretty good about playing anybody with this team.
I'm not concerned about playing anyone.
Yeah, I'm not super worried about dodging certain matchups. Bring them on, whoever at this point, and let the chips fall where they may. Health is just more important to me than I get it. They probably want to get that passing stat for Josh. His health in the wild card game is much more important.
You can see it as soon as Matt Barkley steps on the field. Matt Barkley is not a good backup quarterback, but it's ridiculously obvious how, heck, if you want to make any argument about the MVP, there was someone in the national media who it might have been Mina Kimes. I'm not 100% who it was, but they said the one argument is Josh Allen might be the MVP because he's more valuable to Buffalo than anyone else, and that Aaron Jones and some of the other guys in Green Bay, they would be bad, but they might still be okay. And if you take Josh Allen away from Buffalo, they're really going to struggle. Yeah. And he is the train. We are riding the Josh Allen train as far as it'll go.
Yeah, and Miami's aggressive defense, their swarming defense, the offensive line is not going to have the same type of success that they just had this past week. Josh Allen's going to take hits if he plays against Miami. They're going to get him on the ground. They have a lot to play for, right? Like they're out there trying to, solidify a playoff spot. So they've got something to play for. That scares me. I don't love Josh being out there for that. And the number of guys. So home field advantage isn't as much of a thing in 2020 either. I mean, I know they're talking about having some fans at Bill Stadium, but it's not an advantage.
An ornamental amount.
Fans. Yes,
yeah.
It's not
even if they do the 6,700, it's just you said it was a gesture.
It's
It'd
a gesture.
Be nice.
It won't be more than the pumped in noise or energy that we're really getting anyway. So I don't know. So I stand at I'd like to see guys benched. I'm hoping we saw the last of regular season Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, and obviously you're not going to be able to bench all the starters. Guys are going to be out there playing.
There's not enough roster players to do that.
So you're going to have some guys out there, and there's still a chance that an important player is going to get dinged up. But I would like to see the majority of the guys that the key pieces that we need to really make what I think is a chance at a Super Bowl run. I don't want to see them anywhere near the field and against a team like Miami that needs this win more than the Bills need that win.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, and I'm curious to see how they handle it. I think that there's positives and negatives in both directions. Sure. I've heard that Pittsburgh is going to sit people. I've seen a handful of people do some analysis this week on teams that sit and how do they do going into the playoffs. There is not a definitive answer. There are plenty that have gone out first and out. There are Super Bowl champions. There are plenty that have made it to the conference championship game. It is not the reason that you do or do not move on in the playoffs is whether you sit or not. Whether you have Josh Allen will make a difference of how far you go. So I won't be upset if they sit everyone. And even if they do start and play a fair amount, I do not expect it to be a material amount of the game. I think it'll be enough to go through a week of prep and to keep people fresh, and that could be something I could see Sean McDermott justifying to himself that, hey, we want to keep the momentum going. We want to keep everybody in the mode of winning football. We're going to get everybody ready. Then they're going to give them a couple drives to kind of get that game momentum going and then sit them all down. So I don't expect anywhere close to 60 minutes for the main starters, and I expect a fair amount of weapons to sit and not play in the game. So we'll see where that goes. Yeah. So any final thoughts here tonight on just the feeling of the game and now getting in this position where we're having these kind of conversations about whether we should sit people and feeling like we can beat everyone, and how that really transitions us as a fan base and as a team of who we're watching?
Yeah, tonight to me felt like a party. It felt like a party, sort of the cherry on top of a season that is, even though I forget exactly what we picked for, I think we were both around 12-4, 11-5 records going into the season, better than I expected it would be and feel. And to be able to go into this game, against New England, I thought this would be a much more important game where the two teams were tight and battling for a playoff position. To already have it all locked up, already have ordered my AFC East championship shirt and it arrived in time for the game, to be able to just sit back and party for 3 hours and just enjoy everybody showering the Bills with praise, and be on Twitter and just see everybody trying to go around dunking on all the people that have talked trash on Josh Allen and still continue to sit around and talk trash on Josh Allen. It just felt like everything's wrong in the world in 2020 except this little thing we have.
The lone bright spot.
Oh, right. It's just so perfect. We'd probably have switched into some dimension where the world's totally torn apart, but the Bills are great. And I don't know if I'm mad about that.
Jason with an awesome comment here. I think Josh Allen is unarguably the most improved player in the NFL. He is absolutely leaps and bounds the most. If he went from where he was to, we can make a solid case that he's the MVP, he is easily the inarguable most improved player.
Has anyone ever won most improved player and MVP?
So, weird thing, most improved player isn't a real NFL award. There's one that like the pro football writers give out one, but like the NFL awards are MVP, Rookie of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Comeback Player of the Year. They don't have a most improved player, otherwise it would be. But there is, the pro football writers do give one out, and it should be him. It'd be weird if it's not.
Yeah.
Handful of questions here. Corn asking, are we signing Milano? I know Aaron is 100% on that train. I'll spend most of the offseason explaining to you guys why we don't have to choose between Darrell Williams and Matt Milano, and that we can keep them both. So I won't spend a ton of time ranking the two, because I think we can keep them both, and we'll figure that out as it comes. Couple other questions here as we get going.
One thing while you're, I'm mad at my guy Taiwan Jones. Bills could have had the record.
Had the record.
The most different players to record a touchdown reception. Bounced right off his chest. My wife's like, how could he drop that? I'm like, well, he is just kind of a special team again. Like, he's not
actually a running back.
Yeah. But just him being out there showed that they were going for that.
Yeah. Justin here asking, I think Josh Allen has definitively taken a half step above Patrick Mahomes. I think it's Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes, if you force me to do it. And I can easily make a case that Josh Allen is the most valuable player, and Aaron Rodgers should be the offensive player of the year for the most impressive offensive season, but that Josh Allen is more valuable than Aaron Rodgers, if you want to nitpick semantics.
Yeah, but the writers don't.
They won't. They'll give it to Aaron Rodgers. But
Yeah,
that's fine.
but I agree with your ranking. I just think Mahomes has he peaked already early in the year, and he is trending down. Even though it's the incredibly trend down, but it's slightly down if you were looking at a graph. And Josh Allen has just trended up here in the second half of the season after having a really big start. Went down for a little bit, trended right back up. And I think if it was in terms of trends on where the players have gone, I think Josh Allen this second half of the season has trended above Rodgers. Rodgers just maintained more consistency, and the lack of turnovers for Aaron Rodgers is really probably going to seal the deal when the people who are voting and the people who get votes look at it and they'll just say, hey, these stats are all real close. We're going to give the nod to Rodgers because he turned the ball over less.
Yeah, in Mahomes having 4 interceptions in the last 3 games, things like that start to nitpick and add on. A lot of people asking who are the favorite first-round matchups. I say very clearly to what Aaron said, I don't care. I think the Bills can beat any team. Anyone who was afraid of Indianapolis, you saw what they did. Anyone who's afraid of Cleveland.
Poor arm.
Yeah, Philip Rivers can't throw about 15 yards. Neither can Ben Roethlisberger. You saw what the Browns just did. I think Tennessee and Baltimore are the best of that group, but I'm not nervous about playing them. If you give me a choice, I'd love to smoke the Dolphins 3 times in one season just for a little extra twist of the knife. But I'm not afraid of any team that's in there. And all the other teams who are now staggering to the finish line here, the Titans just got shellacked by the Packers. I'm not nervous about playing any of those teams. So give me a grab bag. Whoever comes out is fine. I'm not nervous about it.
No, and real quick, a friend of mine, CJ, thanks, man. I know CJ is a good
very
dude.
Generous.
Really appreciate that. But yeah, no, when you have a team that you're this confident about and is the AFC's champions and are, in competition for whether or not they're going to be the 2 seed, I think that is the right feeling to have, that we have established this, we're in this position because we feel like we can beat anybody, and they've proven they can beat good teams. So they've got a record where they beat more winning teams than anyone so far this year. So yeah, matchup wise, I think every matchup presents different challenges both ways, so that are benefits to the Bills and that can cause some problems. Yeah. So there's nothing that I wouldn't rank any of them ahead of each one of them. It's the NFL, it's the NFL playoffs. Everybody's tough. It's going to be a tough road if they are going to make it far anyway. But I'm not scared of any one of them. And I know Sean McDermott doesn't care. I don't think particularly about who they play. I think they're going to feel confident in this staff and these players that they can scheme up whatever.
Yeah. Joseph, bringing something up here. I did make a prediction going into the Saturday night game this week that I wanted to see the Dolphins barely look terrible and barely beat the Raiders, which they did. I wanted to see the Bills win to get themselves in position where they can rest starters in the last week. Then I wanted to see the Dolphins struggle to beat the Bills backups. So that's my prediction, is that the Dolphins struggle, but eventually do beat Matt Barkley in the practice squad that they'll play against next week, and that then they're going to have to show film and show plays to try to beat the Bills, and then maybe the Bills will play them in the first round of the playoffs, and Josh Allen will destroy them and just eviscerate them from the face of the earth.
Yeah, I have no prediction. It's going to be a weird week. Yeah. I'm not sure who's doing what, but what a great feeling that awesome. The season's not over and I don't have to go take down my flag for the year.
yeah, it's just fantastic. It's fun. So being able to kind of figure out a couple people asking here, for anyone who saw one of the things that I talked about with Anthony Marino about the cap, was the glimmer of hope was that the owners would have some confidence in additional revenue coming in. Well, now some more details come out on that. The owners have now approved, it hasn't been officially announced, but it's been reported by reliable reporters, that the owners have officially decided to move forward with the 17-game schedule, which adds a very valuable additional revenue stream. So I think some of the reports that we saw of a salary cap of $195 million instead of $175 million, or somewhere in that range, is very feasible. If that happens, the Bills are in fantastic shape, and they won't have to choose between any of the players. They won't have to make virtually any hard cuts, and they will be able to keep almost this entire roster together plus a normal draft class. So Bills fans need to be rooting for that aggressively, because if they keep that extra $20 million in there, they can keep the whole band back together and just run it back next year plus a draft class. It'll be great.
I'm all for it.
Ark Omen here asking about Beasley. We mentioned that earlier. Eric pointed out it looks like it was something to the outside of the knee. They did a structural test on the bench. He seemed to be okay. He walked to the locker room on his own, but he was hobbling a little bit. A purely random guess here is an MCL sprain is what it kind of looked like. I doubt we'll hear a ton about it, and there's no way he'll play against Miami, so we probably won't know much until the playoff game when we figure out who's going to be there to do that.
Yeah, at earliest you'll hear something maybe Wednesday or Thursday. At latest, like you said, Wednesday at the Miami or the playoff game. We'll start to hear exactly what's going on with him.
So, anything else for the people here of what to ask them to enjoy as we go into this fun weird week?
Get to bed. Everybody go to bed. It's late. My kid's going to be up super early. And he's going to be jumping all over me, and I'm going to be tired and miserable. But yeah, no, enjoy it. It's been awesome, and I can't wait. It's going to be a long couple weeks here till we see some playoff football for a good Buffalo Bills. It's not like limping into the playoffs with a mediocre team. It's a good team that can compete and make a really special run. And I'm just all amped up for it, man.
Yeah, my mom's ready for bed too. So good night, Mom.
That's right. Me and your mom. Too tired.
Yeah, everybody's ready for bed. It's so there's one last thing I'm going to touch on here in the final points of it. A lot of people asked, are the Bills going to win the Super Bowl? What's your prediction? Is Josh Allen going to raise the Lombardi Trophy? You want to know what's fun? That's not crazy. Like, as a Bills fan, you're going to get to walk around for the next 2 weeks because nothing that happens next week is going to change anything. None of this matters until they get to the playoffs. They need to win multiple playoff games. That you can expect that. That's what you should expect as a Bills fan. But it's okay to think that the Bills could potentially go on a run to win multiple playoff games, to get to the Super Bowl, to win the Super Bowl. You can easily make the argument that the Bills are the best team in the NFL right now. And you can say that with a purely genuine straight face, that the Bills are the best team in the NFL right now. And just let that soak in and hold on to that and enjoy that, because it's real. It's not you being a homer. It's not you wearing rose-colored fan glasses. It's not you convincing yourself that, oh, I want this to be real, so I'm going to tell myself what I need to hear. No, the Bills are the best team in the NFL, and they have a good chance of winning the Super Bowl this year. That's awesome. And you've earned this for 25 years of pain and the whole drought and all of these things. And it's okay to enjoy that and to be proud and boastful and confident about your football team, because you deserve it.
Well said.
All right, guys, it's been a lot of fun here tonight. There's a ton of you guys that joined us here tonight. We really, really appreciate it. It means a ton. If you had fun with us tonight, tell some other folks about us. Give us a rating, give us a like, give us a review. It really means a lot. Just give us a second of your time to wherever you're listening to us on YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, the iTunes podcast store, wherever you're checking us out. Give us a rating, give us a review, tell a neighbor, tell somebody in the grocery line, anybody that you know that's a Bills fan, tell them about our show and tell them to come check us out. That's all I ask for you guys. It'll be wonderful to be able to do this together. On behalf of Uncle Jumbo's, on behalf of West Her, we want to thank you on behalf of our sponsors. For Aaron Quinn and Greg Tompsett, you've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.